In the United States, more than 70% of the population is affected by the intense winter storm that has already left at least 17 dead. In Peru, demonstrations continue demanding the shutdown of Congress and the holding of new elections. And in Russia, military authorities presented a series of evidence of the US and Ukrainian joint work on biological weapons. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the TeleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In the United States, more than 70% of the population is currently affected by the powerful winter storm Elliott, which has left at least 17 deaths so far. Several states, including New York, Oklahoma, Kentucky, Georgia, and North Carolina, have declared a weather emergency in the wake of the storm. The nation's authorities are on alert due to the sharp drop in temperatures, with wind chills as low as minus 40 degrees Celsius. The situation is worsened, with power outages extending from the state of Texas to Maine, although the north of the country continues to be the most affected. Authorities report that due to the situation, up to 7,800 flights were cancelled on Friday alone, and during Saturday morning, the airlines cancelled another 2,400 flights. The call from the authorities is to stay indoors and to avoid the highways, which have traffic alerts due to possible snowfalls. The United States extends from the Canadian border into the north of the country to the border with Mexico in the south, and from the Pacific coast into the northwest to the Atlantic coast in the east. The country's climate authorities warn that this is an unprecedented event, as temperatures dropped to -0 degrees Celsius in less than 24 hours. According to local media, migrants who cross from Mexico to the state of Texas try to warm themselves in churches, schools, and civic centers due to the low temperatures in the country. In other places, such as the city of Chicago in the state of Illinois or Nashville in Tennessee, roads were collapsed for hours. The rain turned to ice and the wind turned to blizzards. We updated information in Chile, where the National Executive has confirmed that the fire that burned more than 500 houses and left 2 dead in Viña del Mar has been contained. The Minister of Public Works, Juan Carlos Garcia, has made the announcement after participating in a meeting of the operating committee in the region. The emergency is still active because there are still hotspots, but the fire is no longer spreading. According to expert sources, it will take more than a day for the flames to be completely extinguished. For his part, the Minister of Social Development, Giorgio Jackson, reported on the actions they continue to attend to those affected.
For us as government, President Boric has entrusted us to be present on the ground as ministers to the regional teams, but in full coordination with the municipality and also with the government, to be able to give timely response to the demands that today the population that has suffered this fire requires. In the first place, and as we have said today in the morning when we were with Minister Toa and also with Minister Valenzuela, and different teams at regional level, is to make a census. Once the focus of the fire has been closed, which is what we have been preparing all afternoon with the helicopters that have been continuously carrying water to the area of the incident, the idea is to be able to advance in the census so as to allow us to identify how many families and in what conditions each one of them is in.
The President of Colombia, Gustavo Petro, asked the armed groups that have shown willingness to cease fire in the country to select a spokesman to initiate new peace dialogues. This statement comes after the Office of the High Commissioner for Peace informed that in the last week, several armed groups announced their intention to put aside organized attacks and shootings during the December holidays in order to provide tranquility to the population. In the past, also confirmed that the paramilitary group known as the Autodefensas Conquistadores de Sierra Nevada reiterated their commitment to embrace total peace. For this part, the National Liberation Army decreed that as of 6 o'clock on Saturday morning, they will keep their word to give a unilateral ceasefire. Haitian health authorities confirmed 18,000 suspected cases of cholera and 320 deaths from the disease. 1,369 people have been diagnosed with the dangerous bacteria, and more than 15,000 have sought medical attention. As for the number of fatalities, an increase in the mortality rate of 1.26% has been recorded with respect to the last balance, as 213 have died in medical institutions and 107 passed away in the communities. Last Sunday, national authorities started the vaccination campaign with the use of a recall drug, and it is scheduled to continue throughout the national territory until December 28th. Let's take a short break, but first remember you can follow us on TikTok at the account @teleSUR English, in which you'll be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and much more. Other stories coming up, stay with us. Welcome back from the South. Demonstrations in Peru continue to demand the shutdown of Congress and the holding of new elections. Residents in the city of Yuncuyo, department of Puno, took to the streets and put up roadblocks. The blockade of the international bridge in the province of Ilave on the border with Bolivia has so far kept trucks stranded for a week. Protesters continue to demand the shutdown of Congress, the resignation of Dina Boluarte, and the holding of early elections. The crisis in Peru has worsened when Congress dismissed Pedro Castillo after he announced a temporary dissolution of the legislative body and appointed the then Vice President Dina Boluarte as the new president. The mission of the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights has ended its visit to Peru. They leave a nation that has already recorded 28 deaths in the midst of protests against the government of Dina Boluarte and the National Congress. The Executive Secretary of the Commission, Tania Renan, said in a written statement that the group had visited the cities of Cusco and Ayacucho, where they met with authorities and representatives of the Ombudsman's office and the civil society. They also met with former President Pedro Castillo in his detention facility, as well as with President Dina Boluarte and members of the Congressional Board, a fact that for some parliamentarians is likely to bias the Commission's vision. In Guatemala, the basic food basket price increase at the end of the year has generated a drop in the population's purchases. The rising cost has mainly affected the farmers and poor sectors. Our correspondent Rolanda Garcia gives us more details.
Ixque municipal market merchants in Quiché complain about the low Christmas sales due to the economic crisis caused by the low price of cardamom, the main export product.
People don't make any purchases because they don't have money. Only those who have a little bit help us with the purchase. But those who don't have money don't come. They don't come down to buy.
Right now, it is very hard for us because there are many merchants here for whom it is very difficult to make ends meet. For that reason, it is very hard as the price of cardamom is very low right now. We've had 2 years of losses due to the pandemic.
They add that the economic shortfall at the end of the year is also part of the impacts of the recent tropical storms.
Many people lost a lot of corn and fruits. Bananas that were grown in the beaches, for example, no one has helped us.
They regret the fact that imported products maintain a price differential concerning export crops from the peasant sector.
Farmers' products prices are very low. The price is almost symbolic. However, when we have to buy something, everything is so expensive.
Since they don't have any crisis coping public policies, the social impacts become even more complicated, according to this farmer.
Products become scarcer by the day, and our economy suffers deeply. Only God knows what the future has in store for us in 2023. I see we are increasingly ruined in property in every municipality, town, or land in Guatemala.
Despite the economic crisis, several families in rural areas take advantage of local products to celebrate the year-end holidays.
Rolanda Garcia, TeleSUR, Guatemala.
There were Russian military authorities have presented a series of evidence of the collaboration of the United States and Ukraine in joint work on biological weapons components. According to the available information, the Pentagon is actively transferring to Central Asia and Eastern Europe the incomplete studies carried out in the Ukrainian laboratories. This after it was previously reported that there was a network of at least 30 such laboratories operating in the interest of the Pentagon. The authorities also describe as worrying the recent increase in the cooperation of the U.S. Defense Ministry with the countries of Africa and the Asia-Pacific region in countries such as Kenya, Cambodia, Singapore, and Thailand. The government of Turkey urged the North Atlantic Treaty Organization to take measures to end Greece's provocative actions against its country. Turkish Defense Minister Hulusi Akar reported on Greece's attempts to intercept Turkish fighter jets in the framework of a NATO mission and called on the Atlantic Alliance to put a stop to such actions. On the other hand, he confirmed Ankara's demands regarding the suspension of Greek militarization in the Eastern Aegean Sea islands. He also reminded that his country advocates for turning the Aegean and Mediterranean Sea into a friendship zone. Meanwhile, according to the Turkish Foreign Minister Mevlut Cavusoglu, Athens violates international agreements with its actions. In France, the high-speed train strike continues despite the agreements reached for the New Year, leaving thousands of people trapped in the middle of Christmas celebrations. Following the cancellation of one-third of trains on Friday, the National Railroad Company announced the suspension of 40% of the routes for Saturday and Sunday. The sector's employees have decided not to work from 3 p.m. local time, despite the fact that Christmas Eve is traditionally one of the busiest days of the year. The strike negotiated and to be implemented over the next 2 years. Border agents and train operators in the United Kingdom continue to strike, demanding higher wages and better working conditions. Millions of people have been affected Saturday by the strike of the British railroads, which is expected to last until almost the end of the year. On the other hand, the border police continue on strike, disrupting services in the London airports of Heathrow and Gatwick, among others. The impact of the measure has been minimized by the assistance of volunteers and the military in order to avoid long queues at passport control. Hundreds of travelers have had to resort to alternative transport to reach their destinations. More news coming up after a final short break, so don't go away. Welcome back from the South. Japan's government has approved an unprecedented 114 billion yen annual budget for military spending. The move follows a major review of the country's security strategy covering the fiscal period from April 1st, 2023 to March 31st, 2024. The Ministry of Defense received 6.8 billion yen, an increase of 30% compared to the current fiscal year. In this regard, the ministry's new spend comprised 211.3 billion yen for the purchase of U.S. cruise missiles and 93.9 billion yen for the production of anti-ship artillery, as well as resources to build ships equipped with the U.S. Navy's weapon system. In Sudan, at least 7 people were killed in tribal clashes in Darfur, a conflict region in the west of the country. According to local reports, the clashes, whose causes are unknown, began on Wednesday, December 21st, between Arab herding tribes and African tribes in a township near Niala, capital of the southern Darfur state. They also detailed that many villages were partially burned as a result of the clashes, which also left over 20 people wounded and currently receiving medical attention. The ruling military and civilian groups had signed an agreement that was supposed to for a year, but it was met with mistrust, leading to increase in tribal conflicts since General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan's coup in October 2021. The death toll in northern Nigeria increases to 42 in less than a week after 2 more killings were reported amidst armed group violence. Several communities of the Kaduna state have reported armed attacks in the last few days, which, in addition to the fatalities, have left more than 30 people kidnapped and dozens wounded. Fulani gunmen are said to be responsible for these assaults, which have been specially directed against Christian communities. The governor of the town of Kasha, Mustafa Ibrahim, has also confirmed new kidnappings and lootings in that area since Friday. This Saturday in South Africa, a fuel truck explosion in Boksburg left at least 10 dead and dozens seriously injured. The accident occurred after an Infinity gas truck carrying liquefied petroleum gas drove under a railway bridge because the structure was not high enough. The top of the gas tank lids came off the truck, causing the fire and triggering the explosion. Members of the fire department went to the place to control the fire and assist the injured. It was reported that the explosion affected several structures, including the local hospital. Members of the Russian community in Syria organized a children's theatrical play on the occasion of the Christmas season, an event through which they confirmed their wish that this holiday celebration marked the beginning of the end of the crisis that threatens their children's future. A correspondent in Syria, Hisham Wanos, with the story.
With great joy, the children of Russian families living in Syria, together with their Syrian peers enrolled at the Russian Cultural Center in Damascus, gathered to offer the audience a play about the triumph of good against evil this holiday season, a theatrical act that reflects the common challenges faced by both friendly nations and their joint work to overcome them.
Currently, Russia is going through a situation similar to the one in Syria, because we are suffering from sanctions and economic blockade, and we also have the military operation taking place in the border area of our country, which is why we feel closer to the Syrians, and the same as we share the hardships of the war, we are sharing now the joy of this holiday season.
As members of the Russian community in Syria, we share with the Syrians their joys and hardships, because in addition to military support and humanitarian assistance, we developed cultural work for the rapprochement between the cultures of two friendly peoples and try to participate in all activities, including those of the current Christmas season.
The children also perform Russian cultural folk songs and dances, a musical performance that is a part of a wide range of activities carried out by the Russian Cultural Center in Syria, both to achieve cultural integration between the two countries and to help Syrian children overcome the negative impact of the war and the blockade on their lives.
We wish every child to be with their parents this holiday season, because, as you know, here in Syria there is a war, and now there is a war in Russia, and what we wish is that every parent go home to their sons and daughters, and together light the Christmas tree, and celebrate the New Year, and that happiness reign in every home, and that there be no more wars, and that peace reign in every country in the world. Despite the difficult conditions, we are celebrating Christmas because we want to plant joy in the hearts of all children. Because no matter how difficult life may be, we must not fail to cheer the children in making them look to the future with faith as of these holidays.
The children of Syria, despite the difficult situation resulting from the war and the blockade, have the right to celebrate Christmas and to dream of a better new year. The Syrian and Russian children participating in this event hope that in the coming years they will be able to celebrate in an atmosphere of peace that they hope will reign throughout the world.
FTS, Damascus, Syria.
And every December 24th, many celebrate with joy Christmas Eve, a Christian holiday that commemorates the birth of Jesus, who, according to beliefs, came into the world with the purpose of saving humanity. In most parts of the world, people celebrate with family and friends the traditional Christmas dinner, with typical dishes of each region. Also in several countries such as Spain, Venezuela, Mexico, Paraguay, and others, mainly Spanish-speaking countries, believers recreate the nativity scene representing the birth of Jesus. Other regions place a Christmas tree decorated with lights while waiting for Santa Claus' arrival. It is also customary in many countries around the world to celebrate the holiday with the exchange of gifts and food. Only 9 countries in the world do not celebrate Christmas. These are Saudi Arabia, North Korea, Algeria, Iran, Somalia, China, Tajikistan, and Brunei. We have come to the end of this news program. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For Telesur English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.